NBC7 News at 6 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Catherine Garcia.
And I'm Mark Mullen.
So there are reassurances tonight for parents who have concerns across the county, really. They're concerned about whether their children will be left behind in math because of something that you probably heard of. It's called the new Common Core curriculum. NBC7's education reporter is Rory Devine. She's been following all of this since it started, and she's here to tell us what's at stake.
We've been hearing about the Common Core. We're going to continue to hear about it, Catherine. And for some parents, getting on the fast track for college credit is one issue. Being challenged in math is yet another.
So what do you do to that to get 6?
An 8th grade algebra class at Millennial Tech Middle School.
Simplify by expanding and using the rule.
But 7th graders who are advanced in math also can take algebra, moving more quickly on the math pathway with the goal of taking calculus or advanced placement calculus in high school. That will all change, though, as the Math Common Core curriculum rolls out. But how?
It's very frustrating. The other night I had a conversation with 10 different parents from 10 different sites with probably 4 different stories that they'd gotten from their principals.
Parent Katie Anderson says there's been concern advanced students will be held back, placed according to age, not ability.
What we talk about as far as Common Core is lifting the rigor as opposed to dumbing it down.
Sherry Lawson, the district's program manager for math, says the challenge will be there for all students. And those who are advanced in math will still get 3 years of math in 2 years and an accelerated math class in the 8th grade.
So as juniors, they're ready for AP Calculus, should they choose that. AP Statistics, should they choose that, or whatever higher math courses as juniors and seniors that they need to have so that they can go on with their transcripts to the college of their choice. That was the major concern, is the pathway, will it allow that? And it does.
I feel glad that they're giving the teachers to do more time to do the professional development, to set up their Common Core curriculum, which will be starting then in the fall. I think that's a good thing.
So right now, this is a transitional year with full implementation by fall of this year. And while Katie Anderson says she's reassured, she wishes there had been more communication along the way. The district says it has been late getting the message out. It still has a few final meetings with educators to make sure everyone's on the same page. Then a letter will be sent home to parents with one clear message as to how this will all come together. Reporting, I'm Rory Devine, NBC7.
All right, Rory, thanks very much. Okay, so we just got this into our newsroom, this video that we wanted to turn around and quickly show you now. It's of a rollover accident on an Interstate 8 on-ramp. They sent one person to the hospital and also backed up a lot of rush hour traffic. This is what it looked like to viewer Ashley Gonzalez, who sent us a cell phone video in. The truck rolled over just before 4 o'clock this afternoon. It was on the on-ramp from Morena Boulevard. The driver, as you could probably tell from that gaggle of people all around them trying to help, got trapped inside, had to be rescued by firefighters. The driver was taken to the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. That's the good part. Police closed down the on-ramp as they finished their investigation. Now to a story that is sure to produce a discussion. It did in our newsroom today. 2 San Diego women say they tried to buy food for a homeless man at an East Village sports bar, but that the cook refused. NBC7's Lauren Lee is here in the studio with more on this. Lauren.
Well, Mark, the women say it happened on Sunday night at Dirty Del Sports Bar on 10th and Island Avenue. They say they simply wanted to buy the man a meal, but didn't expect what happened next. Tammy Krug and Candace Roberts were walking in East Village on Sunday night when a homeless man asked for money.
I said, I will not give you any money, but if you want to eat, if you're hungry, we will buy you some food.
They walked into Dirty Del's on 10th Avenue and tried ordering a burger for him, but they say the cook refused.
And said, absolutely not, I'm not making him food. And that's when we said, well, okay, I want the food. Absolutely not, I'm not feeding any homeless. I said, okay, walked out.
We reached out to the manager and owner of Dirty Del's multiple times to get their side of the story, but still haven't heard back. We did, however, talk to several legal experts who said refusing to serve people is in most circumstances legal. Restaurants who have had past problems with customers or have had a problem with panhandlers targeting their business customers often see it as a way to stop what could become a bigger issue. We talked to a spokeswoman from the California Restaurant Association who says she can't speak on this exact situation without seeing it firsthand. But in general, she says no business wants to turn away money or a customer.
If there was some reason why serving a customer would be disruptive or a health and safety issue, then a business owner is totally within their legal right to refuse service.
Krug says she's been working in the downtown area since 2004 and knows there may be challenges with the homeless in the area.
I do understand that we have a problem with homeless people. I get it. Maybe he was just irritated that day or whatnot, but it's just not right.
They bought food for the man somewhere else and parted ways shortly after. They're happy he was fed, but still upset about what happened.
Why can't we just feed someone?
And Krug says she tried reaching the owner of Dirty Dells to tell him what happened, but hasn't been able to get in touch with him. Live in the studio, Lauren Lee, NBC7.
Thanks, Lauren. The man charged with driving drunk and killing 3 of his friends in a car crash was in court today. William Cady wore a neck brace. He has 2 black eyes, and he faces 4 felony charges related to that terrible accident on the 805 and 52. NBC7's Megan Tevrizian was in court today. She's here now to tell us what went on in court today. Some new information coming out, Megan.
Yes, well, Catherine, prosecutors blame the death of his friends on a night of heavy drinking. They say friends in the car with William Cady asked him to slow down, but he wouldn't. Now he faces 24 years in prison if convicted. William Cady was in court today, visibly banged up. He's been in the hospital since Friday's crash and released yesterday to go to county jail. Prosecutors say Cady and 5 of his friends went to 2 bars in Claremont Mesa and got kicked out of both of them because the staff said they drank too much. Instead of taking a cab home, Cady drove his SUV, his 5 friends inside, and that's when he veered off the road and plowed into a cement pillar along Interstate 805 at westbound 52. 3 of the passengers, Taylor Bernarski, Sean Gillian, and Jeffrey Becker, died at the scene.
The family's devastated, he's devastated. There's losers all the way around.
Cady's parents were in court today. They didn't want to talk to us, and also in court, the friends of the victims killed in the crash. They actually cheered when Cady's bail was increased to $2 million. Megan Tevrizian, NBC7.
Megan, thanks a lot for that. So San Diego police now are looking for 2 men who stole an 80-year-old woman's purse while she was shopping at Whole Foods. They may not have considered that the robbery would be captured by a surveillance camera. A man wearing dark clothing asks the woman a question while she's distracted. Another man wearing light blue then walks over and takes her wallet out of her purse. Detectives believe the 2 men, were working together. They are now wanted for grand theft. There is a $1,000 reward as well for information leading to an arrest.
Well, 7 people have now died from the flu in this county this year. County health officials say 6 more people died last week from H1N1. Now, all of those people did have underlying medical conditions. They were between the ages of 35 and 80. Doctors say they have seen more young and middle-aged adults getting the flu this season, which is actually expected with the H1N1 strain. Last season, 65 people died from flu-related symptoms. The current flu vaccine is supposed to protect against influenza A, H3N2, influenza B, and H1N1.
A lot of folks don't know it, but for the past 80 years, San Diego residents have been paying an average of $25 every year to the San Diego Zoo through a city tax. The City Heights man is now fighting to get rid of that. NBC7's Elena Gomez is here with why this man says this tax is very unnecessary. Elena.
That's right, Mark. Well, John Stump went before the City Council this morning hoping to get his proposal on the general election ballot. Stump says voters should have a choice to decide if they want to pay for this tax. Stump has actually been pushing to get rid of the tax for the past 3 years, but each year the City Council has decided not to push the proposal forward. He says the tax gives more than $10 million to the San Diego Zoo Global a year to help with maintenance and zoo exhibits at the park. The mill tax was voted on during the Depression, taxing San Diego residents 2 cents out of every $100 in their property tax. Stubbs says the zoo doesn't need that extra money.
And if you have $400 million in assets, why do you need to still tax renters? Maybe it's time for the voters to decide.
And the San Diego Zoo Global gave us this statement. Although this tax represents just 2 pennies out of every $100 of property tax, we have valued this demonstration of community support for our efforts. And the San Diego Zoo also goes on to say that their organization brings in millions of dollars of tourism to San Diego each year. As for John Stump, he says he will keep pushing to get the tax on the ballot to get it eliminated. Elena Gomez, NBC 7.
Okay, Elena, thanks very much for that. Good time to check in with Dagmar Metcalf after another just summer-like day. Absolutely beautiful and dangerous to boot, right?
Yeah, both of those things combined. Definitely seeing those blue skies out there and feeling that summer-like weather. Two things to worry about. Actually, still one remaining. The fire weather warning has been extended. Was set to expire at 6 p.m. today. Will now expire tomorrow, Thursday, 6 p.m. You're going to continue to see that fire weather in the same locations that you have been seeing it. What we are seeing now is we're not seeing that high wind warning or the wind advisory. That's good news. That did expire at 6. So something good to report. I'll be back in a few moments. We'll talk about the rest of your forecast.
Okay, thanks, Dagmar.
Also, as Catherine and I continue, what a wild year for the city of San Diego it's been, right? Things luckily appear to be calming down a bit.
What interim Mayor Todd Gloria has to say in tonight's State of the City address.
It's keeping up with the Joneses on steroids. I'm Consumer Bob. I have a warning for you coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, for a change, interim Mayor Todd Gloria is expected to give a clear picture of what is going on in San Diego during tonight's State of the City address. NBC 7's Omari Fleming is live outside Balboa Theater where all of this is going to take place.
Hey, Mark, just stepped out of the theater just a couple of minutes ago. Looks like a packed house in there right now, but as you know how these things go, the interim mayor, is going to paint a rosy picture of what the state of the city of San Diego looks like right now. One thing he probably can't put any lipstick on is the fact of that scandal, the Filner scandal. We don't know, though, if that's going to be addressed. What we do know, though, take a look at this. What we do know that will be addressed tonight is the administration is proud of the convention center expansion. Spokeswoman says it could help bring an additional $13 million in tourism to the city. Infrastructure also going to be another key component of tonight's speech, considering sidewalks and other issues. A bond issue was recently approved for infrastructure repairs. Political experts also wondering whether Gloria will talk tax increase for future city repairs.
We're at a time where there's more awareness that the city has problems in terms of its infrastructure than ever. There's a broad understanding, and even conservatives who tend to be pretty cold to tax increases are saying, maybe if you include this thing, maybe if this thing is considered, we'll think about it.
And a spokeswoman for Gloria would not give any details about the infrastructure plan. But again, we're out here live at the Balboa Theater. What she did tell us is that they're going to tackle the homeless issue and tell the city about what they plan to do about that. Reporting live at Balboa Theater, Omari Fleming, NBC 7 News. Back to you guys.
Okay, Omari, thank you. The Navy Cross will be posthumously awarded to 2 Camp Pendleton Marines this Saturday. Staff Sergeant Sky R. Moat, shown in this photo here, and Captain Matthew P. Manukian died in the same attack on their Tactical Operations Center in Afghanistan last year. Both threw themselves into a shooter's line of fire to draw the gunshots away from their fellow Marines. The Navy Cross is the second highest award for valor. There's a new report out. It shows just how many people here in San Diego County live in poverty. San Diego's regional planning agency filed the report based on information they collected between 2007 and 2011. So it shows that 13% of people do live below the federal poverty level. That's nearly 400,000 people in our county. And 9% of families live below the federal poverty level. That's nearly 65,000 people. Of those families, only 28% reported getting public assistance.
Well, here's to a modern problem to worry about. The time you may spend on social media sites could be bad for your budget. It seems that keeping up with the Joneses gets kind of expensive when you include all of your online buddies. NBC 7's Consumer Bob, we have to sense that a warning is coming.
Yeah, we all have lots of buddies out there. We all call them friends, right? And that's where we get into problems. You know, think about it. How often do your friends post pictures of their old cars or worn out shoes or credit card statement? Like never. Instead, it's always about their latest European vacation, the new purse or camera or car. And if you don't watch out, it seems like everyone is spending money except you.
One person at a time is buying a new car or has this great life event, and we're just seeing a constant stream of it because we have 500 of our closest friends on Facebook. And so you're just seeing new things, but it feels like you're being inundated with it all of the time.
That certified financial planner, Mary Beth Storjahan, she often works with millennials in straightening out their budgets, and she found out that people who confuse social media with real life can end up spending a bundle. That's because they think everyone is spending money but them, and they want to catch up. But don't be fooled. Sure, it's fun to celebrate and spend money now and again.
but you also need to take a step back and realize, whoa, maybe this is what's good for the Joneses, but this is not what's good for me in my situation.
So remind yourself, despite what you see on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest, not everyone has the latest, the greatest, or the best. Many of us do just fine with an old car, worn out shoes, and local road trips. We just don't post those pictures and information on our social media, do we?
So there really is cyber peer pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's exactly what to call it. And because we call them our friends, because they post once or twice, we think, you know, you may do it just a couple times a year, but 500 people do it, and all of a sudden you think everyone's doing it. And let me tell you a little tip that Mary Beth told me, and this is, again, to try to keep yourself from overspending. If you see something you want online, you really want it, then wait. Just wait 24 hours before spending. You know, if you have a limit, 25, 50, 100 bucks, set that limit. The waiting period helps you decide if that item is simply a want or it's a need.
Or a need, okay. Thanks very much. No, I'm thinking about the last purchase or two that I did. Thanks,
Good.
Bob Hansen. It wasn't with an Apple computer, though, which is about to refund more than $32 billion to parents whose kids bought mobile apps without permission. The government ordered the refund and now has ordered Apple to fix the problem. NBC's Makala Medina talks to one parent who is really tired of racking up big bills.
Did quite a bit of damage.
When you take a close look at the grin on Sebastian Herrera's face, his mom Jorgelina says it's hard to blame him for the charges on her iTunes account.
He didn't know that he was spending money. He just thought that because he was able to download it, it was just free.
But it wasn't. They were being charged not just for the apps, but in some games, Sebastian actually bought lives, and that totaled up to just under $100.
He just kept playing like nothing, had no idea that it was being charged to my account.
It's a far cry from the $4,600 an 8-year-old racked up or the $3,200 bill a 6-year-old was charged. But Jorgelina says in all cases, Apple just made it too easy for kids to buy apps without parents knowing it.
So everything was just one click away.
The Federal Trade Commission agreed, saying Apple failed to tell parents when they entered their passwords there was actually a 15-minute window that allowed for any other purchases. In a leaked memo from Apple CEO Tim Cook, it says, quote, the 15-minute window has been there since the launch of the App Store in 2008 and was aimed at making the App Store easy to use. But some younger customers discovered that it allowed them to make in-app purchases without a parent's approval, end quote. The feds ordered Apple to fix that window and give parents more power over their purchases.
The problem that we've identified in our complaint continues to this day. They have until March to rectify it.
The settlement will be open for public comment until February 14th, at which time the FTC will decide whether to enter a final order.
All right, we still have a lot coming here on the News at 6. There's a new report to tell you about. It's about the attack in Benghazi, which, as you remember, killed Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 men with ties to San Diego. We'll tell you who a group of Republicans says is to blame for their deaths. Also, the Supreme Court is making a decision about buffer zones outside abortion clinics, why some say the zones are just too strict. Also, you remember the miracle on the Hudson, right? An incredible story. So what the survivors of that plane crash did to celebrate their survival today, it just happens to be the 5th anniversary of that crash.
And we are still dealing with a red flag warning. Was supposed to expire today. It's been extended. I'll be back in a few moments. We're going to talk about why. So the details on your fire weather are coming up.
We are just getting some information in about a small brush fire that firefighters are working on right now. It's off Moreno Boulevard. It's about half an acre right now. It's mostly burning some trees under Interstate 5. We do know that the westbound 8 off-ramp to Marina Boulevard has been shut down. Taylor Street has also been blocked as they work to get this fire out. The good thing is Dagmar's joining us here. You're saying that the winds really have calmed down, even though humidity kind of low.
The wind warning expired today at noon, and then the wind advisory expired at 6, so just a few moments ago. And so that's really good news. Humidity is somewhat coming up, but conditions still dangerous out there with the fire weather. And I think we're going to talk about something else just quickly here. Again, we've been talking about the weather stories, the extremes with the polar vortex, and then, of course, the heat that's going on in Australia. Well, some stunning news was released today by NOAA, and that showed that the U.S. was both drier and wetter than ever before. Most of California, in fact, experienced its driest year in recorded history, while parts of the east and the south, those waded through their wettest years ever. Temperature-wise, as of November 2013, the Earth was on par with having its warmest year on record. So again, like I keep saying, the extreme weather pendulum swings both ways. While we're getting those cold snaps here in the east, the southern hemisphere is experiencing temperatures of up to 120, 130 degrees. And we here have been dealing with one of the driest records on the driest winters on record in California, and we are now dealing with the fire weather warning that has been extended from today through 6 p.m. The good news is at least the winds have calmed down. So temperatures are still an issue. Humidity is an issue, but the winds are helping somewhat because they're much calmer than where they were yesterday when that whole Santa Ana, that setup peaked. 73 in San Diego right now. Winds calmer, 4 miles per hour, out of the northeast at about 4 miles. So again, under clear skies and dry skies. I do like to show you this image because it is very, very indicative of what's going on right now. That's the clockwise spin of the high pressure, and we're seeing any moisture, any hope of any moisture, continuing to be diverted well to our north and sliding down the eastern edge of that high pressure setup that is continuing to keep us under very dry conditions and also give us those strong offshore pressure gradients. So the Santa Ana setup. 21% relative humidity right now in MCS Miramar. At 4, we were at about 6%, so there is some recovery occurring. 16% in Campo, still in the 30s and upper 20s along the shorelines. Up to the north, obviously still dry there at Palm Springs too. 13% there, 14 in Riverside, 1829 Palms. So low humidity continues. Temperatures are going to shoot up again tomorrow, so I'll be back with that information for you in a few minutes.
Okay, Dagmar, thank you very much.
Well, as we have been reporting throughout the course of this broadcast, the State of the City address is scheduled for tonight. It's going on right now. Let's dip into the coverage as interim Mayor Todd Gloria addresses San Diego and its needs.
Executive Protection Detail for stepping up and delivering when your city needed you the most. Each of you has my sincerest and deepest gratitude. I'd also like to acknowledge my parents, Linda and Phil Gloria, who are in the audience this evening. They taught me the importance of hard work and modeled the values that I carry with me today: compassion, integrity, and respect. I often share that my parents taught me that if I were to care about something, I should leave it better than I found it. That has guided me throughout my entire life, even more strongly since I became your mayor. I've tried to approach the responsibility that comes with the office of the mayor.
Okay, so listening to Todd Gloria, he has been covering some general boilerplate issues important to the city, but you know, at least on a personal note, it's nice to hear, and for Todd Gloria, who did not run for the special election, it's sort of his chance to have kind of a victory lap as San Diego looks forward to having sort of calm political waters, especially what all of us weathered last year.
You can never go wrong with a shout out to mom and dad.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line. Yeah, we have of course a crew out there, and we'll be listening in, and we'll bring you all the latest coming up on the news at 11. But we just wanted to give you a little sample there so that he knew what was going on.
We also have another half hour of the 6 o'clock news to go, including a report out of Washington, D.C. that has lawmakers on both sides of the aisle really angry about that terror attack in Benghazi.
Why some Republicans say former Secretary Hillary Clinton is to blame for those deaths. Also, the survivors of the Miracle on the Hudson, they reunited in New York today. What the captain had to say about his decision to make that incredible landing on the Hudson.
That and a lot more right after the break as we look at a gorgeous shot of what sunset looked like tonight. Stay with us as NBC 7 News at 6 comes back.
You're watching NBC 7 News at 6.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so we're going to begin this half hour with a new report from the U.S. Senate about the terror attack in Benghazi, which killed 4 Americans. Specifically, 3 men were from San Diego with San Diego ties, killed alongside the ambassador, Chris Stevens, in the attack. They were Information Management Officer Sean Smith of Claremont, former U.S. Navy SEAL Tyrone Woods of Imperial Beach, and former U.S. Navy SEAL Glenn Doherty of Encinitas. Well, today, Republican committee members blamed former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and said, quote, at the end of the day, she was responsible for ensuring the safety of all Americans serving in our diplomatic facilities. Her failure to do so clearly made a difference in the lives of the 4 murdered Americans and their families. Intelligence agencies were blamed too. NBC 7's Mari Payton and Steve Handelsman have more.
NBC's Steve Handelsman joins us now from Washington with more. And Steve,
Hey, how are you? We'd like to think the U.S. has gotten better at preventing terror attacks since 9/11, but the Senate panel today says that both the State Department and intelligence agencies really messed up not preventing those Benghazi attacks, which killed 4, including 3 with ties right here to San Diego.
Exactly, and that's not new though, Murray. And the White House here is pretty happy actually with this Senate Intelligence Committee report because, as the White House says, it jives with earlier findings and the recommendations for what to do in the future go along with what the White House says the State Department's already doing. A lot of the blame, frankly, is laid at the feet of Chris Stevens, a really interesting character. This is a guy who is seen by the vast majority of people in Benghazi as being the diplomat of any nation most responsible for saving lives in Benghazi. This is the guy dedicated to diplomacy, an Arab speaker who had fought hard to get the U.S. to get involved to prevent Muammar Gaddafi from carrying out his threat to massacre the rebels in Benghazi, and he was successful. Stevens, after that, would walk the streets. He loved to play tennis in the public courts. He was seen around and hailed by most people as a hero. This report, Mari, says that Chris Stevens, who was killed that night, along with those 3 who do have links to San Diego, was personally responsible for denying multiple times the offer by the U.S. military to get a protective strike force in place in Benghazi, which you remember is not the capital of Libya. This would be a strike force that was based in Tripoli. They wanted to move it up to Benghazi with 16 special ops people to provide security. And Chris Stevens, apparently overconfident, paid for it with his life, said, no, don't send them. Multiple times. We ought to send them, Mr. Ambassador. No, don't send them. That's a finding. Not new, but reinforced in this report. And the State Department back in Washington criticized Mari for letting this embassy and this consulate in Benghazi stay open, let Chris Stevens stay in a vulnerable position, despite what was called in the report tripwires being crossed. Warning after warning, there was trouble. It was not a fact, as previously erroneously reported, Mari, that every other consulate from every country closed in Benghazi. There were others open when Chris Stevens lost his life. But looking back now, and of course, hindsight's 20/20, it would seem that Chris Stevens and his bosses at the U.S. State Department and their helpers from the Pentagon could have done more and saved those lives on 9/11, 2012.
All right,
Mari.
Steve Handelsman reporting from Washington. Thanks for your insight today. We want to go back to that brush fire that we told you about just a short time ago, because now we have some images to show you from the scene. Our news chopper over with these pictures, and you can see that it's going pretty good still. This is in Old Town at Marana Boulevard, basically under Interstate 5. The last that we got from San Diego Fire was that this was at about 1/2 of an acre, burning mostly trees. That was a bit ago, so we're waiting for an update. We do know that Taylor Street is blocked, and you can see there some of the, looks like the 8 is closed as well. The good thing is Dagmar is telling us that the humidity is going up a little bit, the winds are going down a little bit, so this red flag situation that we've been dealing with for the past couple days is subsiding a little. Still, crews certainly ready to jump on these things and take care of it as soon as possible. Here's the live shot. We'll keep monitoring it for you and get you updates as needed. Okay, let's talk about the Supreme Court, because 2 major issues today collided there: free speech and abortion. The question is whether a Massachusetts law that creates a protest buffer zone around abortion clinics violates the constitutional right to free speech. Now, Massachusetts is arguing the 35-foot zone, even in busy public areas, is necessary to protect patients from large, loud, sometimes violent protests and also alleged bullying of patients.
The congestion became not just a difficult issue of enforcement around public safety, it actually blocked access.
Others say the buffer zone is too strict. Opponents of the zone sued to force states like Massachusetts to find less restrictive ways to allow patients access to the clinics without prohibiting peaceful, legal conversations. A decision in this case is expected sometime in June.
Time goes by quickly. It's been 5 years, believe it or not, to the day since the miracle on the Hudson in New York. Plane crash survivors today celebrated with a toast to life to commemorate a day that passenger jet made the emergency landing on the Hudson River and saved all 155 people on board. In 2009, Flight 1549 lost power when birds got ingested into the engines. Captain Chelsea Sully Sullenberger of California decided the Hudson was her best option because the nearest airfield was simply too far away.
We have much to be thankful for. Had even one person not survived I personally couldn't have celebrated any of this.
Sullenberger, passengers, crew, and rescuers returned to the very spot where the plane landed safely to remember that they are all fortunate to be alive. Since 2009, years of research still has not been able to come up with a good way to keep birds away from airports.
34 officers at a Montana missile base have been stripped of their certifications. Air Force Secretary Deborah Lee James says they're all implicated in a cheating scandal. They're accused of either texting answers to each other during an exam or knowing about the cheating and not reporting it. Now, nearly 200 missile crew members are going to have to retake the test.
Well, with the Super Bowl just 2 weeks away now, New Jersey officials are getting ready for the big game.
How the state is calling on others for help to make sure that fans are safe.
And even though we are seeing some improvement in our current fire weather conditions, we're still dealing with what is now an extended red flag warning. So the details on why that's happening are coming right up. Stay with us.
So La Jolla has a bit of a marine mammal problem. There's the long controversy over whether seals should be protected at Children's Pool, and now the debate's heating up over whether people and sea lions should be separated at the Cove. So what's the difference? The Voice of San Diego's Lisa Halverstadt and I explain.
For years, animal rights advocates have fought to keep visitors away from seals who mate and give birth at the La Jolla Children's Pool.
Now, some people want to basically do the opposite at La Jolla Cove. The city recently added a gate so people can get closer to the sea lions. Their droppings are causing a horrible smell. The hope is they'll now hang out in the lower part of the cove where their droppings easily wash away. So why do some people think that we should be kept away from the animals at the children's pool, but be encouraged to get closer at the cove? It might have something to do with how different the animals are.
So we came here to SeaWorld. Now the experts won't weigh in on the controversies in La Jolla, but they do work every day to educate people about the differences between seals and sea lions. They even have their own trading cards. Let's start with the animals from the children's pool. So Jody here has been working with these creatures for more than a decade at SeaWorld. Tell us what makes the seals unique.
Well, there's a real easy way to spot the seals along our California coastline. They're going to have spots on them. All of them have spots. They're going to have a smaller, shorter flipper, so they're going to move on their tummy like a snail or a caterpillar. They don't walk on all fours like a cat or a dog, and they don't have an ear flap. They actually have a hole where their ear is. These guys really aren't very social even with each other. They really have their own personal space and bubble, and you don't see them touching each other a lot. Usually if people come along, they're going to go to where they feel most comfortable, and you'll see them move off the beach towards the water.
Which is what you see at the children's pool, where the seals with their short flippers also won't be climbing very far.
Okay, so now let's talk about the sea lions, the animals that live at La Jolla Cove.
California sea lions are really social animals, and they're really loud. So if you're walking towards the beach and you hear a lot of barking, you're probably coming across sea lions. And the best way to know if you are is look at them walking down the beach. If they're walking on all four flippers with a long, broad flipper, it's a California sea lion. Also, they have ear flaps. So if you look at their face or their head and they have two ears, that's going to tell you again, you're looking at a sea lion and not a seal.
Because of these social personalities, the sea lions aren't afraid to hang out close to humans. They leave their droppings there too. Of course, a lot plays into the debates over the children's pool in the cove.
But the physical characteristics seals and the sea lions are simply born with probably play some role in both controversies. And that is San Diego Explained.
So Netflix may be exposed to higher costs in the wake of a major court decision that voided rules governing internet access known as net neutrality. Basically, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit struck down FCC rules which require internet service providers, or ISPs, to be neutral in their restrictions on bandwidth. Basically, that means that internet service providers will be allowed to charge content providers based on how much bandwidth they use. Netflix is the leading streaming video provider on the internet and regularly accounts for a notable chunk of the data flowing across the web, so Wall Street expects the company to be exposed to extra costs, which could be passed on from the ruling. 20 years after a devastating earthquake struck Northridge, California, a new study shows that many buildings remain vulnerable. USGS engineers, in fact, found that mid-rise buildings with fracture-prone welds are more dangerous than those built after 1994, which basically means if the area is hit with another large quake, those buildings are more likely to have major damage or even collapse. The 1994 Northridge earthquake killed 57 people.
Well, the Chargers won't be there, but law enforcement agencies from across New York and New Jersey are ready for next month's Super Bowl. NBC's Jay Gray has a sneak peek of what to expect.
A show of force this afternoon in New Jersey.
up on this dais is the tip of the spear when it comes to the Super Bowl security.
A spear law enforcement has been honing for years, preparing for a New York, New Jersey Super Bowl.
Nobody at this table needs to be reminded in the shadow of the World Trade Center how important this event is to make people safe in our region.
In what's being called an unprecedented collaboration between local, state, and federal agencies, thousands of officers are being deployed across the area for events planned from Times Square to MetLife Stadium.
Our tactical teams have been training throughout the year for different scenarios to include active shooter, bomb threats, and hazards related to chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear threats.
As part of their preparation, security teams have also reviewed the Boston Marathon bombing, the power outage at last year's game, and the possibility of severe weather. Right now, the forecast calls for snow and ice.
For the last year, we have sat down and gone over every possible contingency involving temperature, precipitation, any sort of malady that could affect us in February.
With that time for preparation now quickly giving way to game day. With all the tools being deployed, officers stress their most important weapons are the eyes and ears of the fans. Jay Gray, NBC News, MetLife Stadium.
And wanted just a moment to check in on the fire that has been burning in Old Town under the 5 off of Morena Boulevard. Very happy to report that they jumped on it very quickly, and it looks all but out right now. They'll stay just to mop it up, but especially given the latest weather conditions, even though things are improving just a little bit, there's still good reason for caution.
It was just, 47 minutes ago that we had
It
our
expired.
advisory.
The wind advisory expired at 6, yeah, but we still do have the red flag warning that's in place, and that will stay until tomorrow at 6 p.m. So the high wind warning expired at noon today, so earlier today, and then that was replaced by that wind advisory. So as you can tell, winds are slowly calming down. Currently, we still have a little bit of an issue with them. Still seeing them at times in Ramona at 17, 9 in Julian. Nothing right now in Campo, but obviously that's a big shifting weather pattern as those Santa Anas move in from the east. Through the overnight hours, I'm showing you the peak wind gusts, so the maximum winds might be up in those 30s in Campo, in the 20s in Julian, nicely calming down along the 15 and the 5 corridor. A little bit stronger still in through Anaheim, which is the case in the western edges of the aptly named Santa Ana ranges up there, or the Santa Ana Range Mountains. Continuing to see Escondido, Mount Laguna, potentially seeing some of those stronger wind gusts through tomorrow afternoon as well. But again, in general, the winds are calming down, so we don't have that high wind warning anymore, or the wind advisory. However, with the low humidity, breezy conditions, and the warmer temperatures that are going to shoot up again tomorrow, we still do have some critical fire weather to deal with, and that's not going anywhere anytime soon. So the coast tonight, dry, clear, low 50s from the coast through to the inland areas, mountains 50, dry, still windy at times, as I just showed you. The deserts 47, clear skies. For tomorrow, Julian at 65, Borrego at 80, low 80s for Ramona and Alpine, dry and windy still to the western edges and North County range, from low 70s in Oceanside, 74 Del Mar, low to the mid and maybe upper 80s from Rancho Bernardo through to Fallbrook, around that 80-degree mark in the South Bay stretch along the shore, and then the low 80s in Santee and El Cajon. Now, when I say we're not going to see much of an improvement over the next little while, here's why. Although we still do have the red flag warning that will stay with us through 6 p.m. tomorrow, we won't have that on Friday, but very little has changed. Again, temperatures will be an issue again for the next several days. Low humidity will still be with us, at times dipping back down into those single digits. The winds are calming down, and that is helping. So we're going to see dry weather, sunny weather, just basically the same pattern minus the extreme conditions that we have been seeing over the last 24 to 48 hours. Mountains and deserts staying dry over the next week. Still have a red flag warning for you in effect tomorrow as well. And then, like I said, temperatures holding steady in the mountains in the mid-60s, upper 70s in the deserts. So not much relief in sight, but anything with this fire weather helps.
Yeah, that's for sure. Thanks, Dagmar.
Okay, thanks very much. Sports coming up next, but first, here's a look at what we're working on tonight for you at 11 o'clock.
An act of heroism at a home improvement store. It's, as you can see, caught on video tonight, how an employee that saved a baby's life is going to be honored for exactly that right there. We'll be right back.
I'm in a press conference setting all that often.
Telesco. I'm glad you have Chargers news, though, because we need to ease out of this.
That's true. I know. Might go through withdrawals.
Well, I was talking to my producer, Becky Scheidhaus, and I said, it's okay we go a little long on the Chargers today because I think people really do care still about this team, and we're still excited about the changes that were made. Chargers GM Tom Telesco started by thanking the media for being fair. You're welcome, Tom. And for the fans for your support. Fans, you did a great job. He discussed a lot of topics. He's rightfully pleased with the job done by the coaching staff.
Last year at this time, and even in training camp, we had no identity. We were brand new. Nobody really knew what to expect. And early on in the season, you could tell we have an identity of what we are. We defined ourselves early, and then we had a great year. And a lot of that's from the veterans showing the young guys, hey, this is how we're going to do it. And we want to keep the core of this team together. It was when I arrived here last year, there was already a great core of players here, that we inherited, that we're very lucky to have. So. And you have to have those guys to teach the rookies and the young guys the right and wrong way to do things.
Okay, Telesco also praised rookies DJ Fluker and Keenan Allen, saying their performance was off the charts. He said Manti Te'o made the type of progress you would expect from a rookie. He intends to talk contract with Donald Butler, the other middle linebacker, after the Super Bowl. He had high praise for him, too. He also sounded optimistic that Dwight Freeney might be able to return next year. Telesco also talked about his new offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, and what an outstanding job Reich did with Ken Wisenhunt, working with Philip Rivers this season as the quarterback coach. Reich said he loves the no huddle. Repeated something Mike McCoy likes to say to his players or to his coaches, do what the players do best. Reich, like Philip, is from a coaching family. Give a listen. He gets it.
I really believe that what's unique about this team is that no one was really worried about who would get the credit. And so, being in the role of leadership, I never really thought hey, I'm going to put my stamp on it. I think I really want to focus on, hey, this is a team, and we're going to win as a team, and we're going to get better as a team, and whatever that takes, to use every ounce of talent and character that's in the room, from the coaching staff to the players. That's the goal, and the stamp that goes on it is the Chargers. It's the bolt. That's really the stamp that we're looking to put on the offense.
Put me in, Coach. I'm ready to play. He was getting me fired up. He called himself an aggressive play caller. You're going to love that, right? And he loves the no huddle. Love that. Added his style of play requires players to think on their feet. It's a warning to his players. Also defended the play calling Sunday, saying conditions, the wind, and the Broncos defense dictated the pace of play in the first half. Wow. Meanwhile, on Saturday, the Sockers are hosting Military Appreciation Night. The Sockers are going to wear those jerseys, camouflage jerseys. They're giving out 5,000 tickets to military families for their game with Bay Area. Beware Bay Area. GM John Quintero explained why.
The great thing about it is all of us that have grown up here in San Diego, one way or the other, we have military ties. Whether your parents were involved with the military, a cousin, a brother, a friend, we can all relate.
Way to go, John. So the Padres posted their game times for the coming season, announced their single game tickets go on sale February 19th. Mark your calendar. Meanwhile, the big cha-ching you heard was coming from the Dodgers. They gave their ace, Clayton Kershaw, a bundle. 25-year-old lefty got a record deal for a pitcher. 7 years, $215 million. That is big-time money. But in this current crazy money market, he's probably worth it. Kershaw went 16-9 last season, posted a 1.83 earned run average. He also won the 2 Cy Young Awards in the last 3 years, and the year he didn't win, he finished second. He's good. He's good, and he's getting paid for it. The other football note, the Vikings have a head coach. Bengals defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer is going to get the job. There's talk Norv Turner will be his offensive coordinator. Meanwhile, Tom Brady didn't practice today. Patriots say he has a mild illness. I wouldn't believe Bill Belichick as far as I could throw him. And in basketball tonight, 10th ranked Aztecs host Fresno State. No local TV. We'll have the highlights at 11 o'clock.
Norv Turner really seems to be enjoying being an offensive coordinator instead of a head coach, right?
I think he really enjoyed being a head coach. It's good to be king.
Was he interviewed for any of the openings?
No.
He wasn't?
I think he's done. I think he's had his chance.
Okay.
You're a former linebacker. You could throw someone probably farther than most.
I could throw Bill from me to you.
More than I could do.
Thank you, Mr. Lazovin. That does it for us. Thank you very much for your company. Wheel of Fortune's coming up next.
Ooh, look at the moon. Cool.